Good morning. This is Charles Lee from Smith Mountain Lake, Virginia. And I know I've always, we go by all of these prepared biscuits in the store, but every now and then you'd like to have a fresh biscuit. And I was inspired by the lady at Bojangles here at Lake Watching, Smith Mountain Lake. Just won an award for making biscuits. Went to Charlotte and competed against some other people. But, you know, it's about 8-10 miles to Bojangles from here. And that's a 16-mile trip. You figure the gas mileage, how much it was costing me. So I decided to give it another try, which I've done over the years. Tried to make baking powder biscuits, and sometimes they maybe weren't as good as I would like for them to have been. So I decided to give it another shot and see what I could do. And with the modern things like a food processor, here's what I came up with, and they're pretty good. So let's try to do it. It's not that simple. It's not that complicated if you got a food processor. Take the top off. You got your blade in here. I use just a regular metal blade instead of a dough blade. I got 2 cups of all-purpose flour. I just use your regular Food Line brand essentials. And then you got a tablespoon of baking powder. Then you got a teaspoon of baking soda. And it says tablespoon of this salt, but I just sprinkle a little bit in my hand. It's maybe a half a teaspoon. And then I give it a little mix. Kind of get it mixed up. The least you mix, the better off you are. So then it calls for, I take a half a stick of butter. And I have sprinkled flour on this cutting board and put the butter on here so that makes it easier to work with. And cold butter works better. And you put the top on. Now mix it up a little bit. Put the rest of the butter in. I have taken this half stick of butter and cut it in little cubes and mixed it with flour so it'd be easier to deal with. So I got the butter in there, and usually my grandmother used to take 2 knives and bump them together. But I do this until I feel the butter has mixed with the flour. It's not quite there yet. It might be good if you take your butter out of the refrigerator for just a little bit before you start this process. Okay, that's pretty well mixed up. So the next step is to add buttermilk. But if you don't have buttermilk and it's 6 miles to the grocery store, you can get a thing like this that says cultured buttermilk. You can mix it with water. 2 tablespoons for a cup of water, I think it is. But what you can do also is I use some light milk like my wife used on her cereal, to use 2 tablespoons of that. But anyhow, we got buttermilk. So we're going to mix this, and you don't want to mix it too much. So what you're doing, start it going, and you let it run until it gets into a ball. And you don't want to do it too much, like I say. As soon as it's all mixed together, it'll kind of clump up into a ball. and cut it off. Just cut it off right there. And then I like to use, this is a little thing that I made myself. I never was able to find one, so I used a Mrs. Dash jar with little holes in the top, put flour in it. But anyhow, we take this top off of this, and there's our little ball. It's wet. You want it to be wet. And you get it all together. You can use rubber gloves if you want, but I just prefer to clean my hands good before I start this thing. Just use my hands. But anyhow, you get all the dough out of your bucket here, whatever you want to call it, container, bucket, work bowl, whatever. And then you got it here on the little board. You get it off your fingers. And you don't want to knead it too much. I just knead it a couple times, because the less you knead it, this is enriched flour, and it's all purpose, and it's just a regular old food line brand. And so I just pat it on out to a reasonably thick, I'd say it's probably 1/4 of an inch or something like, half of an inch or something like that. That's what it is. And I've got my little first cut of biscuits. So I use either something that's pretty large, like a hokey cup, but most of the time I will use a Turvis tumbler. Everybody has those, and it makes, to me, the perfect size biscuit. And if you want small biscuits, you can use a small juice Turvis tumbler. So you see, you have 3 size biscuits. It's up to you which size you want to use. But I put a piece of Reynolds wrap in the bottom of the pan so that I don't have to wash the glass. And this is going to be a small one there, so well, I can still get it out of there. Okay, that's a little thicker. Now those are going to be the best biscuits, but this one, still they'll be good. And I find if you squeeze it together with your hands like this, it kind of gets the That's a little thicker biscuit. Then I'll make a little small one here. That's good if you want to put some gravy on it, or you got somebody that just wants a petite biscuit. Okay. Then I use a counter like this. I got 12 minutes. But you don't have to eat all of these biscuits at one time. You don't have to cook them all at one time. You can do like me. You can put them on a paper plate, the ones that you don't want. That one looks pretty good. I'm going to keep it. Might keep that one. Put the rest of them on a paper plate. And you can put them in the freezer. And whereas I'm cooking these for 12 minutes, the ones that you freeze overnight or up to a couple of weeks, you cook them from anywhere from 16 to 20 minutes. If you leave them out of the freezer until they start thawing a little bit, it might not take but 15 minutes for them. But usually if you take them right out of the freezer, put them right in the oven, it's going to take you 19 or 20 minutes. So you can turn the light on in your oven and look at those. And so this right here goes in the oven. I push this button at the bottom. 12 minutes from now, I'm going to have some nice biscuits without having to drive all the way to Bojangles to get them. And it didn't take that much to do it. So, hope you enjoyed this little video, and I hope you try it and make some biscuits. Enjoy them. And later, from Smith Mountain Lake, it's Charles Lee.